My name is Nnenna Elendu, Ukeje, member representing Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to commend as well the authors of this bill. The authors of this bill have found the need to repeal the TPA, Terrorism Prevention Act 2011, as well as the TPA 2013, and come up with the TPA 2016. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is necessary for us to realize our journey to this point. The TPA 2011 was hastily put together at the twilight of the bombing of the United Nations building. To that end, Mr. Speaker, sir, the TPA 2011 was a bill that was basically a transportation of the bill from other climes. And so it did not have our peculiarities. For us, of course, as a country, it was a new crime. We didn't understand the crime of terrorism, and so we passed the law like any other law. By 2013, Mr. Speaker, sir, the amendment to that bill came. And this amendment, of course, as well, was a bit less granular. It spoke to specifics, but, Mr. Speaker, we have found that in going after this crime, that there are certain things that have been thrown up as we seem as a country to tackle this very dark and hydra-headed crime. Mr. Speaker, but while I commend the movers and the amendments to this bill, I know that there's so many other crimes that the crime of terrorism is affiliated to, and so many international treaties and agreements that speak to them. For instance, Mr. Speaker, sir, a component of the anti-terrorism bill would have to speak to the treaty against torture. It would have to speak to the treaty on child rights. It would have to speak to the treaty on the eradication of discrimination, of all forms of discrimination against women. It would have to speak to so many treaties, as well as the human rights component to this bill. Mr. Speaker, I know that we all believe that in the fight against terrorism, that the human rights component is not a component that should be taken into account, especially in the twilight of the death of a lot of gallant men and women of the Nigerian armed forces, that we should throw away the human rights component. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are a government, and we must work within the confines of a democratic setting and the confines of the laws that we have agreed to. To that end, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me also point out that the absence of a human rights component to our anti-terrorism bill is one of the same reasons why we're unable to tackle terrorism in the way that we should. Our human rights record is not anything, according to the Human Rights Commission, is nothing to write home about. And it is the same reason why certain advanced democracies have refused to sell us arms because of this. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would also ask that aside from tracking of the funds, that we should let this bill go through second reading to the committee stages, and that we will make the additions in all the angles, in ways that speak to all the treaties that we have signed, so that we indeed have an anti-terrorism bill that not only speaks to terrorism as it is, but also speaks to the affiliated crimes of terrorism, the human rights angle, and the treaties and agreements Nigeria has entered into, encapsulating it into one piece of legislation that would help us tackle terrorism. Thank you.